Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor. Now, yesterday, I believe I showed something that wasn't known. It's always possible that someone else has found something, but yesterday I found found out that the CEO of the Bread Wallet company that Ripple has tweeted about before, that CEO is also now the CEO of SBI Ripple Asia. I had not known that before yesterday. Not sure if anybody else had brought that up. I don't think they had, but it's possible. But anyway, so this fascinates me. I'm locked on now. So I went and started looking back for more video of this guy. And what fascinates me is two things. Everything's connected. And the second thing is that this guy is really brilliant. He's a brilliant guy. And somebody really smart chose this guy to be the CEO of SBI Ripple Asia. I'm assuming that is Capital's son, as he called Yoshitaka Capital. And so I've got some interesting tie-ins, interesting things I'm going to show you, take you further down the road with this guy. Now, first I wanted to show you this piece of video that Blockfolio put out. This is our Federal Reserve Chairman, and I want you to watch this video and watch the look on his face. He's talking about how they print money at the Federal Reserve. The look on his face is very obviously, to me, a look of shame. It's almost like a look of, are they buying this garbage that we're selling? Watch the look on his face. Body language is everything. Look at his face.
Flooded the system with money.
Yes, we did. That's another way to think about it. We did.
Where does it come from? Do you just print it?
We print it digitally. So we, as a central bank, we have the ability to create money digitally, and we do that by buying treasury bills or bonds or other government-guaranteed securities, and that actually increases the money supply. We also print actual currency, and we distribute that through the Federal Reserve banks.
Yeah, the look on his face is priceless. Okay, now this is from Vice Vin. Yes, I'm getting some of the little news items out of the way before I go back to the Bread Wallet thing. This is from Vice Vin. We talked about this the other day, and I just wanted to let you know. He says the XRP tip bot is now live on Uphold. Your tips will now only be processed if both you, the sender, and the recipient have a connected Uphold account. And so he apparently you can go to XRP tip bot and it helps you do that. Okay, wanted to make everybody aware of that. Also, this from XRP Crypto. Well, Ripple investor, I had never heard of this guy. Ripple investor Kevin Rose, who led Google Ventures' 2013 investment in Ripple, said, I understood that XRP was going to be used to handle settlements in some capacity. Ripple reminded me of a company that could put standards in place and work with banks. And this is you can go and read the article. I'm not going to go into it. It's from TechCrunch, which TechCrunch is run by, or I think it's run by Michael Arrington. I think he started TechCrunch. Michael Arrington also runs Arrington XRP Capital, the first XRP hedge fund, is my understanding. But anyway, so this is Kevin Rose, and I went back and looked, and I found this tweet from Kevin Rose from back September 15th, 2016. Congrats to Ripple, one of my Google Ventures team companies on the new round of funding. He was just retweeting a CNBC article where they were getting some funding. Now, this article right here came across my radar today, and this is from today. It's about Andreessen Horowitz. They're forecasting a fourth crypto bull cycle. Now, there's a couple of points I want to mention before I read a couple of these quotes in this article. And that is, remember when I was doing the video, remember, I keep telling you, everything's connected. When I was, and you can go back and watch it yourself. Go watch the Anthony Pompliano interview with the Bread Wallet CEO, where he tells you all the things I told you yesterday. If you go back and you watch it, the Bread Wallet CEO said, and his name's Adam, what's his freaking last name? Adam Trademan. I keep drawing a blank on his name. Adam Trademan. He says in there that he first got into crypto. He said he overheard a conversation while he was, he overheard a conversation while he was in Andreessen Horowitz's office. Now remember, Andreessen Horowitz is one of the first investors in Ripple. You can't make this stuff up. You couldn't write this book if you wanted to, folks. This guy just so happens to be sitting in Andreessen Horowitz's offices, and now, many years down the road, he just happens to be running this company called Bread Wallet, and he just happens to become the CEO of SBI Ripple Asia. Ripple just happens to invest through Spring in Bread Wallet. You can't make all of this stuff up if you wanted to, folks. Okay. Now, I'm going to get back to this article and then we'll go into the Bread Wallet thing. Less than a month after launch of a new $515 million crypto fund, Andreessen Horowitz is predicting that high-quality projects may drive a new growth cycle in the industry. Well, I wanted to show you this just to reiterate that, look, that's all any market is a cycle. And if there's ever been a market that is primed to go into the upswing of a cycle, it's crypto. But he says a key feature of crypto cycles is that each one plants seeds which later grow and drive the next cycle. This is from their blog post, I guess. The new projects ultimately inspire more people to eventually culminating in the next cycle. Ethereum was created in the 2013 cycle, for example, and that became the foundation for the ICOs that drove the next cycle in 2017. In the VC fund forecast, the 2017 cycle spawned dozens of exciting projects in a wide range of areas, including payments, finance, games, infrastructure, and web apps. Many of these projects are launching in the near future, possibly driving a fourth crypto cycle. That's really all I wanted to show you out of that article, but I thought that was pretty fascinating. Now, let's go back to Bread and let's rewind, okay? This is the tweet from the Bread Wallet people when they announced that Spring, Ethan Beard had announced that, I guess this was when they announced funding. But anyway, this is Ethan Beard on stage. It says, BRD is excited to officially be a part of the XRP community as announced today by Ethan Beard. Great event, packed house. I can't remember where the event was, but on this, I want to draw your attention here. Because remember, everything's connected. Things aren't just happening. It's all connected, folks. Newest members of the XRP community. Now look up here. It says wallets, exchanges, Binance.us. Now remember, Catherine Coley leaves Ripple and goes to be the CEO of Binance.us. So here they are showing as exchanges, and the wallets are BRD, exchanges, Binance.us. Well, there's one thing when I look at this that's missing. If you have a wallet, you can go to the exchange and you can buy it and then you can put it in a wallet. But there's no wallet that anybody's going to really feel safe about unless there's some custody behind that, right? Custody like something like But Polysign was not ready and it wasn't on that slide. Now, I was looking around just to see if I could find some interesting information about Polysign on their, anywhere online, because you don't ever get anything about Polysign. And I found something that really jumped off the page at me. And then we're going to go right back to the Bread Wallet, but I couldn't not show you this. Polysign 3 days ago posted this job posting, senior front-end engineer. And as you scroll down the page, it says, let me see if I've gone past it. Wait a minute, I'm missing. Hold on. I'm going to find it. When I find it, it might jump off the page for you too. Applicants must be authorized to work in the U.S. security clearance will be needed. Let me say that again. Applicants must be authorized to work in the U.S. Security clearance will be needed. Does that mean U.S. security clearance will be needed? I'm assuming that's what that means. Wow. That's all I'm going to say about that. Okay. Now, we just showed you the slide. It showed Bread Wallet, Binance, Binance.us. And then here's Binance info. This is back March 7th, 2019. Rating report from Coin Bureau on Project Bread Wallet, BRD. Rating 7 out of 10, outlook stable. So they have their own little rating thing, and they put out a report. Bread Wallet, BRD is their token, rating 710, outlook stable. So this is from info.binance.com. Here's a copy of their report where they put it out on the Bread Wallet. So, and then you'll notice this is from CoinMarketCap. The BRD token just so happens to be on Binance. Okay. All right. Now let's go back to this Adam Trademan, who, by the way, I'm very impressed with. This guy's obviously a brilliant guy. Okay. So I started, first of all, this is something I swear to you. Yesterday, I was telling somebody today, I'm almost positive that this was not on his profile yesterday before I did my video. I could be wrong, but I am almost positive that this was not on his Twitter profile yesterday. I don't even think that was on there. It may have been, but I'm almost positive that was on. And I could be wrong, but I think this was added after my video. I just think. But I gave him a congratulations. I think they're in good hands because the guy, like I said, is very smart. Okay, now I went back and tried to find more clips of this guy, and I did. This was one that many of you probably saw, but you may have missed who it was, and you certainly probably missed that it was the new CEO of SBI Holdings. Now, by the way, I say new CEO, he said that it was in October of 2019, but for some reason, they didn't do any formal announcement of it. I know that. I don't know if anybody else knew this before me. Maybe they did, but as far as announcing it, no, they didn't announce it. Not unless you can show it to me. I don't think they did. And it's possible, but I doubt it. Okay. Remember, I live and breathe this stuff, folks. I would have noticed something like that. I think it's possible that I didn't. Okay. So, watch this. There's several clips in here I'm going to play you, and then I'm going to tie in some other things. Watch this.
Still seeing the difference between, does a surveillance state make...
And for those of you that don't know, this is Catherine Coley, who's now the CEO of Binance.us, who left Ripple to become that CEO. And this is Adam Trademan, who is talking to you from Japan.
...for a better economy? And we haven't really solved that question yet. And so I think that that's really where the dividing line will continue to go, is does digitizing the US dollar enhance the ability for folks to be able to access it, use it, spend it, give it back to families and friends that they need to in order to support their own economies wherever they are? Or does this just further create a kind of a power struggle between the consumer and the opportunities?
Catherine,
Hey, 1 second. Before I go any further, and I won't pause it anymore, I wanted to show you two pieces of information that that kind of sync up with what's been going on. Remember this tweet from Dave, while you're watching him, I want you to be thinking about this. Remember this tweet from David Schwartz? My despicable opponents have used the tragic suffering this virus has caused as an excuse to say we must do all the things that they've always wanted us to do. In fact, this virus proves that we must do all the things that I've always wanted us to do, Twitter. And then there was also this, remember? This is from XRP Arcade from Leonidas. Stuart Alderati this past week at Consensus, and I showed you some of the video. What was he talking about there? Is crypto ready for the travel rule? That's what he was talking about. Now back to this.
I'm interested to hear what you think about this. So all that you just said sounds great. But I would say I'm not sure the goal from the government's perspective, and Morgan, I'm interested in what you think too, because you've been, in DC talking to these folks. The goal isn't necessarily to do those things that you just said. They all sound great to me as a citizen of the United States, for example, and a user of money, obviously, right? But I think that the goal from the government's perspective would be one of control. Right, it would be one of control, and it would be one of facilitating their ability to basically fix problems they've been having thus far, right? That fiat currency creates, which aren't necessarily in line with what benefits the actual individual, right? So it's less of a does crypto facilitate a I forget the exact words you use, but that sort of police state, right? It's more step back and say, what is their goal in looking at technologies like this? Sometimes I think that legislators use opportunities like this pandemic in order to move forward things that they have wanted to move forward for other reasons, right? Kind of like what we saw with September 11th, in the Patriot Act, and then suddenly, right, the NSA launches Spectre, and, all this tracking is going on under the precipitous of national security, which actually I don't necessarily have a problem with, right? Nevertheless, it was those sort of climatic events which created an opportunity to push those things forward. So I'd like to think it's all for the people. I'm not sure it always is. I think it's more for the government.
Yeah,
Now, I'm gonna go to the next clip, but as you watch this, keep two things in mind. First, does it make any sense to you that Catherine Coley, the CEO of Binance.us, who has all sorts of people she knows at Ripple, do you think that she does not know that he is, while he's talking here, this is from April 21st of this year, 2020. He's been the CEO of SBI Ripple Asia since October of the previous year. You think she doesn't know that? I don't think it makes any sense that she wouldn't know that. But both he and she, in this entire conversation, it's obviously an avoided thing. He never ever says anything about being CEO of SBI Ripple Asia, and I find that fascinating. All right, I'm going to go to the 132, or right in here. Let's see. Yeah, here we go.
Quarantine isn't going anywhere for us in the near term, so being moderate in our solutions is probably the best plan to make sure that we can get something done.
I agree with Catherine. I mean, we've also, part of the reason, Colin, is, we have to run businesses at the end of the day, right? We have to run businesses legally, and we have to do so, in an environment, that demands a certain amount of, quite a bit of compliance, actually. Gone are some of the early days of the crypto industry with the really strong Bitcoin maximalist libertarian perspective, screw the government and all this kind of stuff. That all sounds great from an ivory tower ideological perspective, when it's 5 guys, with a bunch of venture capital money. But when it comes time to build real businesses like what Catherine's doing, like what we're doing, you have to figure out how to basically to tailor the business to be able to have scalable growth and to serve the needs of your customers, without having to, while being legally compliant. And of all the companies out there, actually, like from our perspective with our decentralized wallet, we're probably the most sort of, towards that direction of the ideological implementation, right? Because, being non-custodial, we are carved out of all of these things. But even companies like us recognize, right, that, with FATF travel rule, implementations coming and whatnot, that the industry is moving in that direction. And frankly, in the bottom of our hearts, we all knew it was going to happen anyway, right? We all knew that at some point the government was going to wake up and say, oh, wait a minute, we might lose some control here. And things like coronavirus, I think, are just catalysts, basically. And Libra, as was mentioned, huge catalyst to get people to say, oh, crap, what's going on here? We really need to take a look at this. So, like I said, it's hard to change sort of psychology overall in the grand scheme of things. And that's a silver lining with, these climatic situations. And actually, like I said, I think ultimately, though, it's good for the industry. We want to be able to figure out how to operate. The worst scenario, the worst case, and Morgan, maybe you agree with this, I hope, which is the worst case scenario is that there is no guidance from the regulators or the authorities. And then we're operating in gray fringe area. And then you're never going to get institutional funds coming into crypto. You're never going to get, those that are highly regulated to be able to play in the space. So actually, as we move, towards sort of, that converging point to the traditional financial sort of regulatory environment, it does help legitimize things. The trick is, can we do that and still keep the benefits that crypto affords to users? That's the hard part.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And let's see. Next, I got several clips in here. Let's see here. Let's try from right.
In that case, I would say.
But by the way, you just mentioned, he mentioned the travel rule that's coming.
I think the U.S. is behind. I think there's a ton of inertia that Morgan refers to from the Fed. I think they have every incentive to keep things the way it's going because the Department of Treasury has a really, really long arm in this, right? I sat down recently with the head of the Central Bank of Cambodia and here in Tokyo, and not too recently, a few months ago before COVID-19. And the the level of control that I understood from his perspective that the Department of Treasury has in influencing even their local economy there in Southeast Asia is tremendous. And it's because of SWIFT and correspondent banks, and it's because of the flow of USD in and out of that country, right? And if you look at the digital RMB, I think it's shocking to me how the world isn't taking this seriously. In 5 years' time, anyone who wants to do business with China is going to have to support the digital RMB. I don't see many companies out there today building infrastructure and financial products to integrate the digital RMB into, existing things like point of sale or e-commerce or even the traditional banking system. It is early, right? But they do have, development kits available, and they are starting to facilitate the ability to interact with that currency. Now, notice something. Notice it's not easy for us. Notice it's not generally available for us, because they have every national interest reason from a patriotic perspective to enable domestic companies to be the ones who provide that technology, so that those domestic companies can basically be the ones to facilitate business between any foreign entity and any company or the government of China. And so, when I am involved in cross-border payments, and I share some history with Catherine relative to some things with Ripple and things of that sort.
Did you hear that? I share some history with Catherine. Isn't that what he said? Let me go back just a little clip there. Let's go back.
China not adopting any of this. If China was so ahead, why aren't they the ones using this kind of stuff in order to get an advantage? Well, it's because they're thinking the U.S. The U.S. created SWIFT.
Wait a minute. I've got to go. I'm going to do that over. Hold on one second.
It's not easy here in Tokyo, and not too recently, a few months ago before COVID-19. And the level of control that I understood from his perspective that the Department of Treasury has in influencing even their local economy there in Southeast Asia is tremendous. And it's because of SWIFT and correspondent banks, and it's because of the flow of USD in and out of that country, right? And if you look at the digital RMB, I think it's shocking to me how the world isn't taking this seriously. In 5 years' time, anyone who wants to do business with China is going to have to support the digital RMB. I don't see many companies out there today building infrastructure and financial products to integrate the digital RMB into, existing things like point of sale or e-commerce or even the traditional banking system. It is early, right? But they do have, development kits available, and they are starting to facilitate the ability to interact with that currency. Now, notice something. Notice it's not easy for us. Notice it's not generally available for us, because they have every national interest reason from a patriotic perspective to enable domestic companies to be the ones who provide that technology, so that those domestic companies can basically be the ones to facilitate business between any foreign entity and any company or the government of China. And so, when I am involved in cross-border payments, and I share some history with Catherine relative to some things with Ripple and things of that sort, and you look at new technologies like this and say, well, why is China not adopting any of this? If China was so ahead, why aren't they the ones using this kind of stuff in order to
see the look on her face? She knows everything
to get an advantage. Well, it's because they are thinking just like the U.S. did when the U.S. created SWIFT, right? They don't have to play by the rules of the rest of the world. Just like the U.S. didn't have to play by the rules of the rest of the world previously. We basically used our superpower state in order to push the rest of the world in order to adopt our technologies, which we can control, namely SWIFT, right? And the current banking system. And China is going to basically revolutionize global banking by using the digital RMB as that same sort of recipe that gets pushed everywhere else. And the idea is, if you want to do business with China, you have to support it. Everyone needs to do business with China. Absolutely, right? So China's the new US when it comes to that. And so, yeah, is it competitive? It's damn right it's competitive. It's competitive because we need to maintain the ability to control our national currency. We need to maintain the ability to be a superpower and have a high GDP. And we need to facilitate global transactions from the US dollar to other currencies. I look at it as perhaps one of the most game-changing things that I think is going to happen from a monetary policy perspective during our lifetimes. I would like to to say it was, it was crypto that started that all off, it doesn't even really matter if it was. Moving to a digital asset-based economy, China is, clearly leading that way, and I do believe it's all about control. I believe it's 100% about control, and I believe it accomplishes their goals, which are not necessarily aligned with the goals of, their citizens, or certainly, foreign citizens.
Yeah.
Some very strong predictions.
Whoa, that's a lot to unpack. Okay, now let's go to, I've got one more clip here that I wanted to play for you. If I can, it's kind of hard on these long videos to get it exactly where you want to be. Let me see here. Where am I? 144. I'll just start here. Okay.
For a digital dollar, in basically all of the legislation that I've seen, nobody mentioned how it could leave the U.S., which is a pretty critical function of the world's reserve currency, of the currency in which commodities trading across borders happens. I think Rashida Tlaib introduced something into the House Financial Services Committee, and that was the most recent thing that I saw. It has provisions for each U.S. citizen to be able to access a wallet, or each U.S. resident, or each business based in the U.S., but it does not have provisions for anybody trying to do business with anybody with a digital dollar wallet. Thoughts on that? Is that the case? Is that a failure of planning, or is that how something launches?
That's part of why I'm excited about it, Colin, because I think that it's use cases like that then facilitate individuals to have to find a solution, or companies, right? And that means moving your money into your digital dollars into crypto, for example, and using those rails to send something overseas. I can't speak for, what the central bank or, those who drafted the legislation specifically were thinking. Maybe Morgan can better, but I would imagine that they were, thinking that this facilitates ease of distribution and maybe contactless point of sale. And then it needs to go and flow through the normal traditional banking system if it needs to be transferred outside of the country, such as SWIFT or something of that sort. But right, all the better reason why companies in the industry like ours in our industry rather, can help facilitate those use cases so that it is easy for people to basically, send that money overseas in the form of a remittance or something of that sort, right? So like I said before, every time we take another step as a country, or even on a global scale, any country does towards digitizing their currency, I think it's good for the crypto industry, because the benefits of crypto technology, meaning, fast transfers anywhere in the world, near instantly, and very low cost and free, right? That's got to be, those, at the end of the day, those have to be the reasons why people end up adopting the technology. Because like I said, consumers always go for things that are faster, save them time, save them money, or make their status better, right? Or improve their health, right? And so, in that sense, then if you have these alternatives, I think that wise consumers will use technologies like that. Years ago, or a few years ago, that was TransferWise. Before that, it was just doing a wire transfer, or Western Union or whatever. And now, now it's crypto based. So I think it's actually a very good thing. I don't think anybody planned this in that sense, and I don't think those who drafted the legislation, left it out on purpose, or there was anything nefarious there. I think they were just trying to accomplish their goals, and then once that money's there, people are going to use whatever rails they can in order to do what they need to do.
He sure uses a lot of Ripple speak when he's talking, doesn't he? Okay. So now I wanted to take you to this. I remembered once I started really focusing in on this bread company, I remembered they've got their own podcast, and I remembered a while back that they just happened to be, of all people in the world, they decided to get Roger Ver on their podcast, or whatever I don't know if they call it a podcast. It's on YouTube. But anyway, of all the people, they decided to interview Roger Ver. And so I went and found an interesting clip from that. I don't remember if I've ever shown this on the channel, but it's always interesting to hear from Roger Ver. Listen to what he says. This might be eye-opening for a lot of you that have never heard about Roger Ver and who he is.
Mt. Gox. My first Mt. Gox purchase, I actually had to send a wire transfer, not to the Mt. Gox corporate account in Japan, not to Mark Karpelis's personal account, but to Jed McCaleb's personal account.
The original.
That was before he'd even sold Mt. Gox to Mark Karpelis. So.
Wow.
For those that don't know, Jed McCaleb founded Mt. Gox, then went on to found Ripple, and then went on to found Stellar after that. So really an amazing serial entrepreneur on that front, with a a number of just back-to-back incredible success stories there. And then even before Mt. Gox, he created, and I always get it confused, it was either eDonkey or eMule, one of these like peer-to-peer file sharing software pieces, which is a really interesting bit of history about Jed there as well. So another amazing guy in the space.
Interesting. I knew the Ripple piece. I did not know about the more recent file sharing stuff. That's
No, the file sharing was before cryptocurrency.
Before the crypto. Got it.
Yeah, this is way back in the days of like Napster and Kazaa and these sorts of things. And he had one. It was either eDonkey or eMule. I forget which one, but people can Google it and figure it out if they're interested in that ancient history. For those of us that are old enough to remember Napster and Kazaa and Morpheus and all these fun things.
Very cool. And while talking about all these different projects, you're an investor in Ripple and a slew of other companies.
I was actually the second person ever involved in Ripple. So Jed came to me in 2012 after we knew each other through Mt. Gox, and he said, I have an idea on how to make Bitcoin that doesn't require mining. I think mining is wasteful because it uses a lot of electricity. So if we can figure out how to do it without all the mining, that would be great. So I said, okay, that sounds great to me. So I paid David Schwartz his salary, who's still to this day the CTO of Ripple. I paid his salary for the first year or so of him working on Ripple. So technically, you could say I was the second person ever involved in Ripple. So,
wow.
Which is a fun piece of history there as well. So I've never, ever been a Bitcoin maximalist, if you want to touch on that thing. So I've always been a utilitarian maximalist. Whatever's the most useful to the most number of people in the world, that's what I'm going to support.
Yeah, that's the most.
I think I kind of like him. I think he's one of the good guys of this whole game. Now, I'm going to finish this video by showing you a picture that I found interesting. This is Roger Ver and Adam Trademan, who is now the CEO of SBI Ripple Asia. We had a pleasure of having Adam Trademan, CEO of BRD Wallet, and Roger Ver at Bitcoin Cash Meetup in Tokyo tonight. We had a great time. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that I am very impressed with this Adam Trademan guy. I'd love to meet this guy someday. Thanks for listening.